Okay, let's get this started. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome once again to the Meat and Potato Show, conservative talk and awesome rock. I am your host, Christopher Mader, proving once again that the Meat and Potato Show is nationwide, calling all the way in from California. He's going after the top job, the head honcho, the pedophilia of all America. My good guest, second time calling into the show, John Dummett. John, welcome once again to the show.
Thank you very much for having me on. Had a great time last time. Glad it gives the opportunity to get back in the saddle and tell people what I'm all about.
Very good, very good. Yeah, and this is one of the things, and I posted on your John Dummett for President 2016 page. I can't endorse a candidate. This has always been the problem with. I love interviewing the candidates. I love going to Oath Keepers, Tea Party meetings, filming, interviewing people. I actually don't, quote unquote, belong to these groups. Like, I'm not an active paid member. I can't do that. Same thing, which is what I said on your Facebook page. I support your campaign. I can't endorse it because that kind of compromises my journalistic objectivity. I mean, I like you. I love having you on the show. I love having all the candidates on. I've been doing this since 2008, since I was on the radio. And I remember my manager at the time talking to me. It's like, you have these candidates on, it sounds like you're endorsing this right-wing Tea Party. It's like, I never said, and I have to always make sure that people understand that. Look, I like these guys. I want them to come on. I want everybody to have an open forum. But I can't openly say, yes, I'm for this one or for that one, because now I'm locked into, whatever their campaign is, and it kind of throws a monkey wrench into having the other guys on there. But I love having you on, and thank you for coming on again. John, I want to address very quickly, you've had a lot of people coming onto your Facebook page, a lot of trolls. I mean, it's everywhere. I get them on my page too. But Michael Williams, he seems to be like somebody who does your web designing and everything. I want to quote what he wrote. I'm looking at your Facebook page right here. It says, "Disagreement with a point can help bring a solution if both sides can, in a civilized tone, discuss the problem out and think critically about arguments. Calling somebody racist or a homophobe or a shithead because they disagree with you is not tolerated in a civilized debate." And John, quickly, why don't you address this issue, and we will move forward into foreign policy stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's just as simple as that. People want to discuss issues. I'm all fine with it. But my dad always taught me that the closer you are to the target, the more flack you're going to get.
Yeah.
So I kind of look at it as that I'm definitely pushing buttons, and people are, they're afraid of what I'm saying because it'll catch on. And they're going to do whatever they can to discredit me or make remarks to try to make me look to be out of the phone or something like that. And I'm fine with it as long as people want to be civilized about it. But when it devolves into an ad hominem attack, then the objectivity of the whole conversation is lost, and you can't come to any solution to anything. So I don't want to limit anybody's free speech, but people have to understand the constitutionalists, and there is no such thing as absolute free speech. But then again, I don't have to listen to it. I can walk off and say, hey, I don't have to listen to you. I think that's policy. That's the way I look at it.
And sometimes when I was on WCW, and even with my own YouTube thing that I'm doing here, people say, "Oh, I don't like what you said." It's like, then shut it off. Don't start whining and complaining about something I said. You know what the show's about. You know what I'm about. So don't come on to my show or listen into my show, and then after you're done, whine and complain about it. It's like people who listen to Glenn Beck or Rush Limbaugh or Alex Jones, and then they all freak out about it. It's like, shut the hell up. Don't listen to it. The ultimate censor is you. Change the channel, right?
That's right. Don't post. I won't bother you. I'm kind of happy about it in a way, in a kind of a weird way. It's just when I see these people putting my things on my site, I just say, hey, great. I'm definitely, that juice is singing, isn't it? I mean, you're feeling the pain, so I'm definitely making points. So that's what I want to just keep doing, and we're just keep getting the message out there.
Sure. And you know what? Arguing with liberals, it's as again a famous book that Glenn Beck published a few years back. Arguing with idiots. That's what we are. We're arguing with idiots. They're not actually. Right. They're not actually giving a cogent thought, a concrete. God, what's the word I'm looking for? There's no purpose in what they're saying. It's just agitation. That's all it is. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's the purpose. But the purpose there is to get in your head and try to get you to back off of something that you've done, or make you take back a statement that you made, or try to get you off on a different tangent. And so I just press forward with what I know is in my heart to be true, and I stick to it. Now, can I be changed? Can my mind be changed? Yeah, that can be changed, because that's the whole idea of conversation. That if someone comes up with a legitimate argument, then you're bound to change your mind if you haven't thought of that point before. So I'm open to to talking about things, but I'm definitely not open to you're a butthead, you're this, you're that, you're this, you're an idiot. What school did you go to? I mean, I had one person say, well, first of all, I don't have a platform. Well, yeah, we have a platform, we have plans, so anybody can go to my campaign site and see all that. But right. I can't sit there and go over and over and over and over and over and over it, every time someone talks to me, because I do a lot of personalized talking with people. I actually chat with people, and they're talking to the candidate. They're not talking to somebody that's sitting behind a computer screen saying that they're me. They're talking to me. So I take a lot of time and effort to at least let people hear it from the horse's mouth.
Sure.
So I just demand a little bit of respect. I'll give you the respect, but I'll tell you, I have definitely. I've gone off the wild end a few times, and I've let them have it. And I'm only human being. You look at it, but then your better half grabs you. The angel that sits on your shoulder, the devil that sits on your shoulder. Well, the devil's beat me on a couple times, but most of the time the angel's there.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. All right, let's move on. So we've addressed that issue. It's ridiculous. So, let it go. And some of these people are ridiculous. But it's sad. It's sad that these things exist. And all right, I'm done. We're done. I wanted to address that, and thank you very much. All right, let's open with some foreign policy matters. And this is a little bit old, but it still applies. A few weeks ago, Secretary of State John Kerry, he told the House Committee on Foreign Affairs on Thursday afternoon that it's, quote-unquote, a mistake for people to raise the issue of whether Palestinians would agree to recognize Israel as a Jewish state. It's so funny that even though the UN, Israel is a Jewish state, we recognize it as a Jewish state, the Israeli government has insisted that Palestinians do so as part of an agreement. And we've seen it all before with the Balfour Agreement, the entire history of the Jewish nation trying to rise. They've tried time and time again to appease, swap lands, this, that, the other thing. All that the Arabs and the Palestinians have said is no, kill, let's run the streets red with Jewish blood. You can never get anywhere with these guys. Even Authority President Mahmoud Abbas and the nations of the Arab League all reject this new demand. And here's a quote from Kerry. I think it's a mistake for some people to raising it again and again as a decider. Excuse me, why don't we just say that the right of the United States doesn't have to exist? And even last week, State Department spokesperson Jen Psaki told Palestinian Al-Quds newspaper that while the U.S. considered Israel a Jewish state, it was not necessary for the Palestinians to do so. And Mr. Dummett, here comes the question. Can we please get off this crazy train we're on and start treating our allies as we should, and stop trying to placate our enemies and start seeing our enemies as they are? Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, well, I've said it a million times, and I've written it down a million times, that Israel is an ally of the United States, is recognized as a legitimate state. Palestinians have never been a state. They're
not even a race of people.
Yeah, that's right. So, okay. The solution was at the end of World War II to set up an independent Jewish state. Okay, fine. Now, Danny, we've done that. Okay, we have diplomatic relations with Israel. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a done and dead issue. I mean, the point is we're allies with the Israelis, and we owe our allegiance, or well, not our allegiance, but at least our best effort, to see to it that our allies are get our help when they need it.
Sure. All right, and Ted Cruz, a little while ago, a week or so ago, he was on the Senate floor, and he was talking about aid to the Ukraine, and he went off on some tangent with, the Koch brothers and that kind of thing. But I personally feel that we should do nothing in this matter and stay out of this entanglement. This is a completely Eastern European, Ukrainian/Russian problem. I mean, every time the United States has ever gone to war, in the Middle East, Iraq, Afghanistan, even the Gulf War, even in Bosnia and in those areas there, the Russians were like, hey, wait, this is your problem, guys. We're not even going to get into it. But for some reason, and I know this sounds contradictory to the last statement I made on defending Israel. Allies are one thing. Nations asking us for military support is one thing. Even open threats to our security, that's one thing. But this is another matter entirely. And the Crimea wants to secede back to Russia. From what I read, I could be wrong on that. But the Obama administration seems to think that it should stick its nose into this. And I see this as a pissing contest between Obama and Putin. And I just want to hear your thoughts on this, sir.
Yeah, well, it definitely was, but Obama lost that pissing match the second he moved it out because Putin just, wiped the floor with him, and he knows it. He knows he's dealing with a weak president. But here's the thing: I'm definitely against foreign entanglement to direct security risk towards the United States.
Absolutely.
But we do have NATO alliance issues and problems over in that area. And we do have allies that are part of NATO, but then again, you get Ukraine, they want their cake, they want to eat it too type situation. They want to make sure they eat the whole cake without spreading it around. Now, it's obvious what's going on in Russia. They have to have that area for their military. They're not going to drop it for any reason. And of course, we don't have the type of relationship with the Ukraine that we do with Israel and anybody, any stretch of the imagination. But when it does come down to the point that they start talking about how we're going to set up our missile defense systems and stuff like that, because Putin's come out and said, okay, well, if you do this, this, and this, then I'll back off. It's the United States to capitulate or to give concessions. And of course, I wouldn't do that at all. I would tell Putin himself immediately that if you're seen as a threat to the United States of America, well then you're going to have to worry about those several hundred nuclear submarines we have walking around. Now, I didn't mean by saying I'm going to start a nuclear war. I just want to remind Putin that he's dealing with a superpower nation, and that we're not emasculated like a lot of people think we are. I mean, we're temporarily down for the count because of who's in the office of presidency.
Sure.
But that can change, in 4 years. We all know that in this country. I mean, he's got a life ticket running. He can do whatever he wants. So we have to pretty much put up with what Putin's going to be doing over in that area. But people really need to realize, too, that, things are going to change. But we've got to make sure that we limit the damage as much as we possibly can. Now, the damage, there's been a lot of damage done with Putin, what they've done over there. But in fact, the world's perception of the United States being paper tigers, I mean, you might as well put a rubber stamp on it right now. Because he knows that he can do whatever he wants. I mean, he being Putin, and they know he knows he can do exactly what he wants. And Barack Obama is powerless to do anything about it. This is simple fact.
Well, he did say, I'll have more flexibility after the election. Is this the flexibility that he was talking about? I mean, seriously here. Go on. Say it.
There's no flexibility. I mean, the only flexibility, I think it's just, there's no way that Putin can lose. I was laughing my head off. I got a post my someone was talking about, how, Barack Obama was making, Putin, peeing his pants. And I was laughing my head off when I saw that statement because, he wasn't peeing his pants or he's got Barack Obama, messing his, and it's obvious. It's just plain obvious. But like I said, and I'll reiterate that, as far as getting involved involved in foreign entanglements, it definitely has to be, something that's going to impact the United States to such a degree that our national security is at risk. And, and this could conceivably, not because that they're ensuring that they have their military bases available to Putin, but him, getting, the land ceded back into it and then revving up the Cold War again that Ronald Reagan ended up ending. If people don't remember correctly, tear down these walls, when you get to that statement. A lot of people don't realize how that happened. And Ronald Reagan really caused the Berlin Wall to fall and the Soviet Union to fall is that the Soviet citizens were sitting in line waiting 2 weeks to get toilet tissue because they couldn't afford it because they were trying to keep up with us militarily because of the Cold War. So when Ronald Reagan said, let me see, I'll put up a missile defense system all over the whole world where if anybody shoots up a missile, we can shoot it down. And will effectively render, ICBM warfare non-existent anymore. And, of course, we'll give all the technology to all the other countries. That's what Ronald Reagan said. But that's not what the true purpose of that statement was. The true purpose of that statement was to say, hey, look, capitalism is going to outspend you behind it, and you're not going to be able to wipe that behind end because you're not going to be able to toilet tissue to wipe that end because you're going to have to spend it, and there's no way that the Soviet Union or any communist socialist state can compete with, capitalism. They can't do it.
It certainly.
And so, yeah. So that's what I said. I'm all for right now as far as United States entanglements over in that area as far as Putin is concerned. I called it. I don't know if anybody can go to my site and go look at it, but even before this stuff really started going out there, I said I'd slap it. That thing's so closed down tight, but with economic sanctions on that, but that you wouldn't even know what hit them, and I wouldn't even have to even commit one, American military vessel over there, even to do it. And and that would have been a much more effective thing against Putin at the time. I mean, he would have come to the table knowing that he's not dealing with a weak president, and then we have a different issue that we got going on right now.
I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, do something. Do something at least. Like you just said, even just slap down some sanctions, make a strong statement. I know he does this line in the sand thing, and he stole that from George Bush Sr., but I just don't see that. I don't see that in his rhetoric. I don't hear it in the speeches that he gives. I'm wondering if that maybe...
Collusion.
Thank you. Thank you. I was just going to... Thank you. Do you think so? Seriously, go on with that.
I was figuring, I thought about that a long time ago because we know what Barack Obama is, and we also know what the Soviet Union is. We know what socialism is. So I came up with pretty way back when. And of course, people say, "Oh, you're just an ordinary, average common Joe. How would you know?"
Yeah, what would you know? Right, exactly.
Yeah, well, I pay attention to what's going on in the world. Okay, so I do understand what's happening, and I do have. I have a college education, of course, in history, constitutional history, as a matter of fact, and of course anthropology, which is archaeology specifically. But I do understand how the world ticks.
Exactly.
And that kind of crossed my mind immediately that this pissing match really isn't a pissing match, but more or less a slap on the back match between each other. Wink, wink. This is what we'll do. This is what we'll do, and then it's going to end up being bad for the United States anyway. You look at it, but
you and I, and that's interesting that you make that statement. I hear it all the time. Because I don't have a college education, I'm a streetwise guy. I know there's nothing wrong with that. Everything I've ever done, I've done myself. I've educated myself. I've got a library of books, everything. I do this show. I've done it since 2008. I've met dozens, if not hundreds of people, spoken on. God, I've forgotten 90% of everything I've talked about and researched. It's unbelievable. And I see that too. It's like, well, what do you know? Who are you? It's like, what? It's like, well, I throw the question back. It's like, well, who are you? Why don't you know this stuff? I know this stuff. I research this stuff. I have to interview people. I have to do a show. I'm going to say it. I have to sound like I know what I'm talking about. And I don't mean that like I'm just faking it. No, I actually have to look this stuff up. I actually have to read this. And because I've been doing it since 2008, believe it or not, that's the equivalent of a college education. It's like, are you serious? Are you serious? I don't know what I'm talking about?
I mean, I say about the college education, but really what I mean to say is, okay, I have a college education, but really all that does is teach you how to learn, how to think critically, and that's for people that can't do it on their own. And I've known people that are brilliant, that are dropouts that are both multi-billionaires, and of course they never, spent one day in college, so it doesn't really matter.
Sure,
but I got my education up in fine art as well as anybody else, but I also have done a lot of book reading about what was going on, and I didn't go to college just to learn how.
That's very important. I'm telling you, you can't underestimate that. I do about a book a week, and it's nuts. And not only am I doing that, but I'm also researching for the next interview. So, I've been doing the research for this interview that's going on here, and I've got a lady coming on at 6 o'clock tonight. I've got to go over her stuff. So it's just constant. And for somebody to come up and, like, I call myself a citizen journalist. I've actually had people come and say to me, and make comments on my page and stuff, oh, you call yourself a journalist. Where'd you go to school? I didn't go to school for journalism. No, I didn't. So then how do you call yourself a journalist? It's like, look, the old paradigms are gone now. It's all gone. Thanks to the web, the internet, mini scams, you know what I'm doing here. Thanks to all of that, anybody. Now listen, I'll completely agree. There are a lot of idiots out there with a microphone. There are. But that's free speech. That's America. That's the way it goes. But there are also many, many more like myself who are out there pushing and exploring and trying to get the message out, and we're doing the best we can. Anyway, we're digressing a little bit here, but I want to stay on the Ukraine just a little bit more, and then we'll move on to the next thing. We're going to talk about the Second Amendment and all that, but this leads me into it. Now, the citizens of Ukraine, they've all been disarmed. There's no Second Amendment rights for these people, and I've seen a ton of the videos on YouTube, and I'm sure you have too. And this is what we as Americans are worried about. In every historical event of revolution and genocide, there has always been a blanket disarming of the general population to begin with, hasn't there? And John, take it from here.
Absolutely. Every single case. And this is what I tell you about my education and archaeology, because I can tell you as far back, before the written word, that's exactly what they do. Even if it was to disarm them of their bronze weapon. That's how you deal with people.
Unbelievable. I know, and you know what? It's so funny that you just said it so short and sweet, because it's really, I mean, what else argument is there? I mean, we hear the gun rights people talking about the violence, and oh my God, it's like, no, you people don't understand. It's not the guns committing the violence. It's the fruitcakes with the guns in their hands. It's the rest of us who own guns, legally own guns and responsibly own them, and the 3%ers who are ready to stand up and defend this republic of ours, they're not the ones you have to worry about. In fact, two groups of people you got to worry about. One, the fruitcakes that are out there, and the government. Take it from here.
Yeah, the government, worst of all, actually. I say that's probably the first and foremost. You can deal with the nuts that are out there because, like I said, I do go around Arctic occasionally. You'll never know when that is, but most...
That's the way it's supposed to be.
If someone jumps up in front of me, I'll be able to defend myself. But, the point is that I had some fruitcake talking to me about, they had the caption of this woman that was sitting on top of a giraffe that she had just killed with a big high-powered rifle, and they were making the argument that they always make that, you need a big gun to kill that beautiful animal, yada, 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 all that kind of stuff like that. No, it always goes back to the gun rights issue and stuff like that.
No, it's the idiot.
People, look, I'm not going to eat a giraffe, okay? And really, I don't care. I don't own a weapon because I like to hunt. Okay, that's the bottom line. It has nothing to do with hunting for me.
Right.
Nothing. It has everything to do with to keep a tyrannical government from telling me that I'm going to do something, and I'm not going to sit there in a ghetto in Poland wondering when the Nazis going to beat my door in to take me away to, make a barbecue out of me. It's not going to happen to me, and it's not going to happen to a lot of Americans. So, forget about that issue about, guns being for that. That's exactly what they're doing over there. They're going to disarm the people. They've been disarmed, and they don't really have anything to say. They can run around, in the Ukraine. They can protest all they want. But when it comes down to the bottom line, she was running around to guys in their military uniforms and the tanks and the personnel carriers and the machine guns and everything like that.
Right.
And that's his point there.
If you look at the videos, and I've posted a bunch of the videos on my YouTube page and a bunch of the playlists that I put together, is that I've noticed that in every single video, I mean, the citizens are under fire. There's one video that I posted. You can hear that crack of a sniper rifle. It's going off,
right.
going off. Yeah, you've probably seen the videos, too. And the people are falling. They've got, makeshift shields. They're wearing construction helmets. And it's like, I'm thinking to myself, why don't these people have guns? What the hell's going on? And I mean, they're trying to protest, they're trying to stand up, they're quite literally dragging the bodies and the wounded out, and they themselves, you can see it in the videos that I posted. Go on my YouTube channel, guys. Just go on and look. You can see they're dragging the bodies, and then they fall. It's like, are you serious? I mean, it is just genocide. It is just murder. Here in the United States, if something like that happened, it would actually make really interesting television because I'm telling you, the citizenry would be armed and it would be an open gunfight in the streets. I'm not trying to make light of that, but you would see that difference there. Every time we see a video of some country, something, remember Bosnia. You remember Bosnia and Kosovo. It was the same thing, the Sarajevo, the snipers. Nobody had guns. Whereas here in the United States, if something like that went on, it would be open warfare, wouldn't it?
And exactly, that's what prevents that from happening, because there's 300 million guns in the United States. You just can't willy-nilly go out and tell a population that they are going to do something. You're going to have to go through the legal process to get things done. So that's the first thing that any civilization will do. Anybody that's going to try to impose their will is that they're going to get control of who has the guns, who has the weapons. And that's the way it goes. It's the way it's always been. It's the way it's always going to be. It's nothing new under the sun. And if it's a big surprise to you, then you've been living under a rock.
Okay, let me hold you there, because this leads me to the next question. It's about Second Amendment. Connecticut, here we go. Connecticut, they've imposed a gun grab, and there's that police chief who went on and said I'm the master and I make the rules. That guy is a psycho and he needs to be put away somewhere. California, gun grab. Possibly soon here in Massachusetts. Many states are refusing to do it. Other lib states, they're falling like sheep. But a little historical context here. Let's talk about the Civil War, and I'll just do this quick, and we'll get right to the question. It did not start over slavery, despite the anti-slavery talk leading up to it. It started over a state's right to secede and refuse the federal laws imposed upon those states. The whole emancipation and the 13th Amendment, they were well-intentioned, but they were used as political and strategic acts as an example of warfare to end the war. Now, here comes the question, this whole gun grab thing. And juxtapose it with what I said about the states' right issue. Are we in possibly the middle of that states' rights issue? Because if you remember your history, it took a long time. The states were arguing amongst each other of whether the federal government has the right to impose these laws, and so we're seeing it here today with the gun grabs. Are we in that similar issue that was the onset of the Civil War? And you know where I'm going here, so take it from there.
Well, do you think? I mean, come on. Like I said, you have to be living under a rock not to know what's going on between the states and the federal government. And the federal government might impose its will, the Second Amendment, because they understand the only way that they're going to be able to impose their will upon the people is to get the guns. But right now, yeah, you can see where it's starting off slow. It always starts off with just a small rock rolling downhill. And it's usually an issue like that, and the government comes up and will say, okay, we've got to get the guns out of the hands of the people. And they start off with saying, look at all these, school shootings and all the crazy people are out there. And then they always point out the bad things that go on with gun ownership and stuff like that so they can get the people to start understanding, hey, we're going to have to make some laws. And I mean, I know the whole progression of how we got to the point where we are right now because the Constitution is really specific on what it says. It says the right to bear arms shall not be infringed.
Sure.
And what part of not infringed don't you understand? The point is that you can be a crazy kook and own a gun. And you can. But constitutionally, it doesn't say except for people that are crazy or except for, there's no exceptions. What they've done is they've taken it upon themselves, and they, being the government, the federal government usually, or even the state governments, or the anti-gun people, and that's to say that, we have to be reasonable. And what they do is they prey upon that reasonableness because we don't want to see crazy people out there with guns. But it's not to get rid of the guns out of the crazy people's hands. That's not what it's about. It's what it's about. It's about disarming the citizenry. Period. That's what it's all about. And they have to start off because you just can't just chop the head off the snake and walk in. With these people in Connecticut and stuff like that, they're not proposing to take away all guns. It's just one of these pet grabs of assault weapons. That's what they're saying. Because it starts with assault weapons, and then pretty soon it gets down to, okay, give me your .22 pistol, or give me your starting pistol, stuff like that, and then you're disarmed. Well, I understand what they're doing. I can see it a mile away. Anybody should. And those that are, that forget the past or due to repeat it, well, folks, we're headed exactly towards that slippery slope. They're trying to disarm the citizenry, not because they want to prevent some school shootings, because in the greater scheme of things, more people die every day by being clubbed over the head than shot with a gun.
Sure.
Okay? If there's more murders out there for that, why aren't you out there, banning baseball bats or any butcher knife longer than 6 inches or whatever?
That was a conversation. That was a conversation I had with my last guest, a good man named Garrett Phoenix. It's like I have a camera stand. I could kill you with my camera stand. What do I now own an illegal camera stand? Shall we ban camera stands? Drunk drivers. Okay, we don't blame the car. We blame the drunk driver. This is the oxymoron that is liberalism. And let me get back to a couple of points that you make, about the right to bear arms shall not be infringed. I just finished a constitutional class with Dan McGonigal from the John Birch Society. And it's on my YouTube. It's on the Facebook. I filmed it. I was there with the Oath Keepers. And one of the things that he covered the Militia Act. I don't have my notes in front of me. I took notes the other day. I think it was like 1803 or whatever. But the whole thing with the militia is it's a citizens' militia. In fact, here's the thing that people misunderstand about the Constitution. When you read the Constitution, it says, the government gives you this, and the government, it's specifically spelled out in the Constitution what the government is not allowed to do. Everything else that's written in the Constitution is the people's responsibility. And not only is it their responsibility, but it's their rights. That's why the 10th Amendment, blah, yada, yada. I'm not going to get into that, but you know where I'm going. The point I'm trying to make is that the militia and the right to bear arms, that's a citizen's job. In fact, it's your job, my job, to get my neighbors and everybody together. And all right, we're going to go train, and we're going to form, and we're going to do maneuvers and that kind of thing. And we're going to make sure we have our powder and powder, but old school. But I mean our magazines, our guns. We're going to keep stock of everything. We're going to elect a commander. That's our job. And yes, we are here on my street. This is my militia. These are my 5 guys. And then we join up with 5 other guys from another street and 6 other guys from another street and so on and so forth, so that our town, this is our militia, and we got 1,000 guys, and we're all trained, and we elected a commander, and this is our job, and we are here to defend our town and defend our liberty and defend from either invasion or tyranny from our government. And then the whole Dick Act and all this other stuff came along, and the National Guard. John, you know, I know I'm preaching to the choir. You know what I'm talking about. But do you see where I'm going here?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a slow process. It's a slow cooked frog method, I call it. And if you've never heard of that, you know, the frog will sit in a pan of water, warm water. You turn the heat up on, and you don't just sit there and cook, you know, because you do it, you know, incrementally. You just do it slowly.
Right,
and then pretty soon you wake up the next day and they're beating on your door to come take your weapon from you. But I'm all for restoring the Constitution to its original form and intent, and I would love to see, you know, towns getting together and forming militias and you know, getting something organized, and then that way we could probably take better care of ourselves, because God bless our police force, okay? I'm not against police, but, you know, to be honest with you, really, more often than not, all they are is just to clean up the mess, you know, and make the chalk mark around the person that got killed.
That's
you know, because they can never get there really on time to really, you know, protect. You know, they do a lot of serving. But, you know, and of course they do occasionally get around to where they can protect us, but in most occasions they can't. There's just too much stuff going on. So it does behoove us to organize ourselves into some sort of units that would, you know, to be able to take care of their community a lot better than what, you know, we got going on right now. And I think it's going to happen here pretty quick because of the budget constraints and things that are going on. I don't think that people can even afford, you know, police coverage in a lot of places anymore. So, I mean, it's getting to the point where if we're going to have to depend on the federal government to provide us protection, and God help us if that happens. I mean, if that happens, then call me a general. Forget about this presidency stuff. I'll be going out there, you know, getting my guys together and, you know, doing what I need to do to defend myself against, you know, a tyrannical government.
Certainly. And interestingly, it just, when you were talking, it just made me think about the guardian angels in New York City and other neighborhood watch groups. And even though they're well-intentioned and they're great, I mean, we should not stop doing that, the government actually gets involved and says, well, you can't go armed and you can't do this and you can't, you're very restricted. And even those people starting those groups, well-intentioned as they are woefully misinformed about our Constitution. They should return and say, no, you don't understand. We are forming a citizens militia group, and this is what our job is. It's enshrined in the Constitution. It's ratified in the Militia Act and the subsequent reappropriations that went on throughout the 1800s. That this is what we're supposed to do. Exactly what you said. It's like the cops are stressed. They're overstressed. They can't always be there all the time, and it is our job as a citizen militia group we're not here to bust in doors and bust balls and that kind of thing. No, we're here to prevent things. We're here to police the streets and little old ladies going to the market. It's that kind of thing. You know, make sure the kids get off the bus okay. Just be there. And yes, we are going to be armed because the world, John, you know, the world is messed up. You know, some of these inner cities that I live in here in Worcester, it's
unbelievable.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And you know, if we had groups like that, that would be great. I mean, I used to be with the search and rescue unit with Worcester County Search and Rescue. We had to jump through all sorts of hoops and permits and everything else just to put a patrol boat out on Lake Quinsigamon. Not that we wanted to interdict or intercede with anybody, but just to make sure you got your life vest, you're all set. Oh, you ran out of gas, we'll tow you, that's fine. Okay, you're all right. Oh, the children are swimming out beyond the buoys. Let's go, get back. Just to keep people, you know, just to keep things sane and safe for everybody else. We weren't out there like head honchos. We were just out there just doing our stuff. It was unbelievable. I worked with Colonel Latimer. God bless him. And folks, I'll tell you about him later on. But the stuff he had to go through, I sat with him at the town meetings to get the warrant and get the permit and get all that stuff going. Oh, God. I mean, I just wanted to rip my face off.
I know.
It's like unbelievable. All right, let's move on. Thanks, John. Thanks. another issue that gets very little press, and I've been working on an expose, and I'm talking about CPS, Child Protective Services. And no candidate has ever spoken on this, and you've seen some of my posts on your page, and there's another woman that's, she's going to be coming on the show. This is something I've worked on not only recently, but I've covered it before throughout my radio career from time to time. It always seems to creep back in. It's unbelievable. But I've not found one instance where a candidate has actually addressed this issue. And so I'm gonna actually put my foot in your door. Now, I'm talking about the power of our social services. Now, hear me out here, John. The Department of Children and Families. Now, I will state for the record, if you abuse, neglect, beat, molest, hurt children, you should be given the worst. Okay, I have no tolerance for that. Yet the power of Child Protective Services goes way beyond protecting children. To becoming a governmental top-down system where it gains money from the feds by inflating the numbers, forcing the breakup of families. There's even adoption rings. I mean, these people make money from this stuff. I've covered it in my blog, and I'll post it up on the headline above this this video. In foster care, again, there's more federal dollars. Families who are struggling economically are personally targeted. Single fathers are targeted. Single mothers are targeted. And the system is designed to label most children as at risk. We were just talking about guns. Do you have guns? Even in Obamacare, the doctors are supposed to ask you, do you have guns in your house? Oh, children are at risk. Here comes DCF. Here comes Child Protective Services. And these people are probably loving parents. But because they have guns, they're single, they're poor, they're Christian. In fact, I will even broach the subject. Maybe they're even illegal aliens. Those children fall into the trap of state ownership. The state now owns your children under the rules, and they have simply made these rules up as they go along, all in violation of our Constitution. And I want you to please address this issue. Even if you don't know anything about it, just tell us what you think about it. Yeah, go ahead. Take it over.
Yeah, I definitely know about it. As a matter of fact, I had one of my campaign workers is involved in that very issue. But yeah, we're addressing that issue because it's becoming really a thorn in everybody's side right now. This Child Protective Services, where they have garnered so much power to where they're actually creating things that don't happen, and that the parents absolutely have no right to discipline their children anymore. They can't tell their kids where to go to school or how to do things. It's like what it is it's that it takes a community to raise a child bull crap that they started coming up with way back when. Not that I don't agree that the community should be involved in raising children, because that's the truth. But what they're talking about more is government intrusion into raising your children and doing that type of stuff. And what they're doing, and when I say there, I mean the federal government and even the state and local, even some of the counties. I mean, these people are beyond the way they're making money out of this. Adoption processes and Child Protective Services. It's more of a money to get out of an organization more than anything else. I think the state probably makes some of the best money that there is around there, from what I understand. But yeah, it's a point now where the federal government is trying to use that as a way to jump in and supposedly stop children of risk. Listen, I came from a very poor family. I guess I should have been yanked out of my home then when I was a kid.
Right.
Immediately out of a loving home, I should have been yanked completely out of it. Yeah, okay, no. If anybody can't see this a blatant attempt by, the government to stick their nose in the way we raise our children, how they're indoctrinated and stuff like that, well, they're going to go after the people that can't defend themselves the most right away, and then we're talking about those at-risk people that you're discussing. And they're going to come after those folks first because they can't defend themselves. They can't afford the attorneys to go after them, or to, a lot of these people they're involved with Child Protective Services, so they can't get a fair hearing because they can't afford the legal fees that are necessary.
And even the court-appointed lawyers, they're part of the system too. They're plants.
Yeah, they're worthless. Yeah, everybody knows that. Yeah, would you want a court-appointed attorney to represent you in a murder case? Yeah, right, okay. I wouldn't even want to defend me in a parking ticket case, to be honest with you. But anyway, I think And okay, go ahead. Don't vote for me. I think most attorneys are snakes anyway. So I mean, what can I say? I'm just saying the truth. It's the way our legal system has evolved into, and it's all just the federal government trying to snake their way into every aspect of our lives, and they're coming at us, at our children, and they're just trying to put more control as they can, and they're being successful at it. So, in order to combat that you're going to have to organize, and you're going to have to get out there and make it known what's going on, and that's what we're trying to do in my campaign, is make people aware of it, that it is a serious issue. And we're not just coming at it, like you say, oh, come on, it's just child protective services, come on, it's not that big of a deal in the greater scheme of things, but it is. It's because what they're trying to do to all of us by going through the weakest of us, and that meaning the people that can't defend themselves, and that's why they go after that. And then they're just going to try to limit our rights. That's what they're doing. But you got a gun in your house, so okay, well, your child's at risk. We come in and we get to see what you're doing. Or your gun isn't, I got to put my gun in a safe, unloaded. Well, I can't get to it. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Criminal. Can you wait for me to, and I'll sit there with my trying to do the combination while, he's getting sitting there ready to kill me. So I got to make sure my guns are in there, locked up, so my kids don't get it. Come on, folks. You can't believe that the federal government really cares so much about your children that they're worried about you having a gun loaded in your house. Look at what the ulterior motive is. Because my kids don't get to my gun. Okay? Sure. But they know what a gun is. Sure. I got pictures up there you can go and see. I got them shooting guns when they're 7, 8 years old, 5 years old. I know what a gun could do. I mean, I took my kids out. Sure. When they're young, I put a watermelon up on a post and I shot it with a .44 Magnum, and they watched it explode. And that got a point across to them that a bullet kills you. Yeah. So,
this is not
you train your children. Yeah, you train your children what to do about guns. There's no problem with guns in the house with kids. Do kids kill guns in the house? Yes, they do. Why does that happen? 9 times out of 10, they hide the guns from their kids, and the kids don't know it's there, and they come across it in the bed, and they look, hey, what's this?
Exactly.
And of course, they see what's on the television, and of course, the inevitable tragedy happens. But you don't use that as a way to get the federal government to intrude on the way you raise your children, because that's essentially what they're trying to do. This is just an indoctrination move, and they're getting away with it because they do know that there are lots and lots of us out there that could be tagged as a possible risk, for children home. Thank God I don't have any minors in my house anymore, but I had 5 sons in my house, and I'm sure that they would have just loved to get a hold of me right now, and just probably ring me straight. I'm well aware of the situation, and we are addressing it in our campaign. We will talk about it, and it's all about, trying to get a system down where we do take care of our children, because those children that do need protection need protected. There are some that really, truly, and honestly need protected. Well, look at JonBenet Ramsey. I mean, if everybody remembers her. Remember the little girl that got killed, and nobody could figure out who the murderer was? The mother ends up dying, father, I guess he's dead now or whatever, but we go to, it kind of slips out a little bit here and there that maybe the mother did it and all that kind of stuff. Well, they're all rich. They can afford the attorneys.
Exactly.
So,
sure.
What they do is they go after you when you can't afford it, and that's most of us. Even though I make a lot of money, I could feel like I can afford an attorney right now.
And
so I understand what's going on with the whole situation.
Everything that I've been talking about here in introducing the question to you, everything's covered in my blog. It's a big expose that I've been writing. I've got other people coming on later on next month and into May. I'm probably going to end up writing part 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 on this thing, because it's so unbelievable. And what I find amazing is that when you actually try to engage CPS workers or anyone from the court, and you put this out there and you give them this evidence, they think you're crazy. It's like, what are you talking about? That doesn't really exist. No, we're here to help you and help them. At no point in time, and I've been involved with Child Protective Services. I'm a single father, and of course, therefore, my children are at risk. And
absolutely.
And my son.
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, and my son was when he was about 7 years old, he was diagnosed with type 1 juvenile diabetes. So therefore, okay, now it's a whole new nightmare. And so I've gone through that, and that's what started my education on it. And so my son is grown now. He's 21. He's a grown man. He's got his own girlfriend, and he's off working. He's living his life. So I've got a lot of years of experiences, as with many of the people that I've interviewed for my blog and I'm going to interview with my show. But they've all been through this throughout years. It's not like just somebody just suddenly poof out of nowhere, something has happened. They've all got the experience, and everyone tells the same story. It's like, yeah, these people are corrupt. It's like, what is going on? In one of my blogs, I talked about Georgia State Senator Nancy Schaefer. She was murdered. She did a 4-year investigation on the corruption of CPS. Boom, murdered. Oh no, it was a murder-suicide. Her husband killed her. Oh, please, 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 give me a break.
Vince Foster murder.
Yeah, Vince Foster. Yeah, he shot himself twice in the head, kind of thing, right? Yeah, that's really
yeah, right.
Interesting story. You know, even when see, I come from old school. My mom taught me how to cook, to bake, to clean the house, garden, mow the lawn. When I was like 8, 9, 10, my parents split up when I was young, but my mother was very self-sufficient. She grew up in the Depression, so it's like, nope, we're gonna pick ourselves up, and this is what you're gonna do. So I learned how to do all these things, and it was a great education as a child, because what did I do? Not only am I doing this radio show, and I was in rock bands, I ran a contracting business throughout my 20s. Again, I told you before, everything I've ever done, I've just done myself. And I thank my mother for saying, you know what, put the pot of water on the stove and turn it on, and you're going to learn something. And even my daughter, she's about 15 now, but she even, at the age of like 7 or 8, she could cook, she could bake. I did the same thing with her. And when my son was going through his thing with his diabetes and DCF was involved, it's like, oh my God, every time my child got sick, they didn't say, how can we help you, sir? How can we help you? They were always like, well, what did you do wrong? And so
what did you do to cause it?
Right, exactly. So as the investigation went on, they were like, well, what's going on with your daughter? It's like, oh, my daughter is self-sufficient. She's 9 years old. She gets up in the morning, has her own shower, she makes her own breakfast. What do you mean she makes her own? Don't you make her breakfast? I don't need to. Well, why? Because I taught her how to cook when she was 7. It's like, hello? It's like, well,
yeah, no kidding.
Well, aren't you afraid? It's like, it's like these people are from Venus or something. It's like, are you serious? It's like, really? This is actually going into the report as a neglectful parent because I taught my child a self-sustaining life, educational way to live? It's like, are you nuts? This stuff actually goes on with these people.
Right. Well, I've had my own experience with Child Protective Services. I don't know how serious it was, but I have my number 5 son. I have, like I said, 5 sons. He was Mr. Houdini. This kid, he'd be out the door, in 2 seconds. So it was real funny in my house. I had an next door neighbor that was really nosy. So anytime she'd see my kid run out the front door and start running up the road naked, of course, because not only did he have an aversion to being in the house, he had an aversion to wearing clothing. So we'd have to go after him, run him down, and always every 30, 40 seconds, where is my kid? Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Just to make sure you knew where he was. But if you went to our front door, a police officer or somebody, maybe it was somebody from Child Protective Service, I can't exactly remember what, but they knocked on the door and they were asking me about my child getting out. And I had to ask the person to come in the house, and I said, now look at that door. And if you looked at the front door, I had screw holes and latches going all the way up to the top to where the kid couldn't get to the lock to get out. And if you were to watch the kid, you wouldn't believe it, he could actually prop himself on either side of the door jambs and climb up the side of the door jam. It's like a monkey. But we're sitting there watching our children as hard as we can, diligent as anybody could possibly be. And other than putting a rope around the kid's neck, which I think is cruelty. Anytime I see a kid, I don't know if you ever see them, they look like those grinder monkeys. A lot of people put that on their kids so they can't get away.
Yeah.
Well, maybe there's a reason for doing that, but I never had to do that. But I kind of think it was odd that people would do that instead of, grabbing your kid and make sure they sat down next to you. But other than doing that, I don't know how I could have kept the kid in. But finally, he got out of that. But he still liked to, not wear clothes up until he was about 6.5 years old.
My daughter was the same way. She was naked, baby, up until about the age of like 6 or 7 or something. She was naked, baby. Yeah, and because she was number 3. You know how kids go. It's like the first child, you got a toilet train. You got to go through that nightmare.
Right.
The second child gets a little easier. But by the time the third child comes, it's like they already figure it out. It's like, oh, my brother's going into the bathroom and pooping, so she already knows how to do that. So she'd take off her diaper and throw it on the floor and then run into the bathroom. And, like, I'd be in the kitchen making breakfast, or I'd be outside walking the dog or something. And then next thing I know, I'd come home or I'd go out the door. It's like, and she'd be standing in the front lawn playing with the garden hose naked. And it's like you and I look at that, and it's like, well, isn't that cute? Well, at least you're home. But no, you're right. Other people look at that, and it's like, isn't that terrible? You're not watching your child. She's out in the front lawn naked. It's like she's out on my front lawn. Leave her the fuck alone. It's like she's having a good time. She's playing with the garden hose. Leave her alone. And then I would go in the house. Then I would go in the house and finish making dinner or whatever. I'd come out 5 minutes later. She'd be in the backyard covered in mud. It's like, she's having a good time. She's playing. Let her go. I'll wash her up later. We'll have dinner. But you're right, John. Oh, my God, you're right. It's like bizarro world out there.
So I learned, like I said, I'm just a normal human being, and I've done the same normal things that everybody's done out there, and that's why I'm not unusual. I keep trying to tell people, look, hey, if you want somebody in the White House that's just a normal human being that understands what's going on, then you go for that. If you want to get somebody that's isolated from any of these events that take place in the normal human United States household, then you're going to get those type of people breathing down your neck, because they don't understand what it is, to have a household full of kids, running around trying to take care of them they normally and naturally do, and because with 5 kids, and I had them, and they were young. I had 3 right off the bat, and then, of course, we said we weren't going to have any more, and then all of a sudden, surprise, surprise. Of course, it wasn't really a big surprise because I know it costs it. But the thing is that we had the one child, so I had to get another one for him, as a playmate. So we kind of broke our family. There's a little blip, and then there's I got some older kids and I got some younger kids. But,
you're right. You're right.
The whole process.
You're right. Entire Washington D.C. is elitist. Even some of the people who go to work, even in some of the offices and agencies, even they, I know a lot of them have families too, but there's a difference in the income. They can afford the psychologists. They can afford the special schools, the private schools. They can afford the daycare centers. Right, the housekeepers and everything else. Yeah, day-to-day people, you, me, the guy next door, who are just, we're trying to pay our bills, or, oh, geez, I just lost my job. I don't know what I'm going to do. Things, just the stuff that goes on every day. You're right. These people are completely disconnected with all of that.
That's what happens, and the only way you're going to get back some semblance of what it was to be in this nation 150 years ago, and beyond, back behind that, because this nation, decidedly, I think, really after World War II, that's when it really started, going downhill pretty much right after that. But up to that point, things were done completely differently. If you look at it just from a historical perspective, you can see how, families were the center core of everything.
And God.
Church was at the hub of that, where, everybody went to, and I'm not telling everybody you've got to go to church to be a Christian. I'm just saying that the church forms its function in the society.
That's just the way it was.
People, on the straight and narrow, usually. And, of course, did you have your problems? Sure, you had your problems and stuff like that, but the problems that we're discovering right now with the extended family type situation, we don't have extended families anymore. It's the nuclear family, and then that's it. And if you go back one generation past that, it's really unusual, even in my own household. I had hoped that everybody would be living in a house like they just come across from some Hispanic country down south of the border with where they all get together and everybody works hard to, and that was the American ethic at one time. Mm-hmm. It was, everybody gets together, pools their resources, and we make sure kids get to school and all that kind of stuff, and the community kind of looked over everybody, but, everybody said that's gone. That it was never really in the United States to begin with, and I say that's a lie. My childhood wasn't the greatest in the world, but I always had a roof over my head and clothes on my back, and I went to school, and my parents did the best they could with what they had, and, we knew it. So we weren't expecting all those nice little things that everybody gets, that they, I guess right nowadays, Christmas is getting to the point where
I think about
hit myself in the head.
I think it's interesting that you make all those points. It's, I think about natives, Aborigines, American Indians, South American tribes. You go down, and of course the liberals are like, oh, isn't that wonderful? They still live the way they did, 1,000 years ago. It's like, yeah, but look at their kids. They're running around naked. They're playing in the mud. Oh, look, he just caught a poisonous snake. Oh, and they're going to play with it for a little while. They're going to go down to the local river and swim naked without floaties. And they're, it's like, but liberals say, oh, isn't that wonderful? This is their culture. But yet if your kid gets on his bike and rides it down the street without a helmet, the cops are going to show up. Unbelievable.
Oh, and then they're automatically, they're demonized, and it may not be that they're the local criminals because they did something wrong, and they did some shit. Well, we can't get back to that, but they've had so many times, Pippi and the socialists and the ultra elitists, they've had their time to do their damage in this country, and if you want to get it back, if we want to take control back, we have to start off, and with our government, and we know that our government is doing it to us. They've got an agenda to make it this new world crap, and I just want to go back, to the good old United States, where the good old United States, you were proud to be from it, and it was good to be from. Nowadays, I just don't know if that's so anymore. I really don't.
I know. All right, we're coming up.
And I want to do something that can change that.
We're coming up to the top of the hour, John. How's your campaign going? One of the things I wanted to ask you about is I saw one of your speeches that you gave on YouTube. Have you developed, this is John Dummett, a type of commercial thing? I'm running for president. You know what I'm talking about. Have you developed that? And what I want to ask you is what events are on your docket? What's happening with you over the next few weeks? How's that going?
Well, things are ratcheting up pretty quick. I just had one article done. At least it was a main. Well, I
saw that. That was good.
Stuff, but it seems that, the last one that was done, the gentleman had been pointed to presidential committees and governor committees and stuff. He's a presidential appointment type journalist. Well renowned. But anyway, he did an article on me, and as soon as that hit, and it's the truth, because we are sort of taking off like a rocket, especially in the Midwest and the Bible Belt and that sort of area. People that want to get back to that America that they used to know or that they thought that we were. And it's just, people understand that, hey, look, this guy's just talking common sense. That's all he's doing. Okay, yeah. Do I have my little idiosyncrasy of not wanting the president to serve if he's not eligible to be served as president? Yeah, I still really do. I don't like these things when I see it's unconstitutional. As a matter of fact, we had a white character say, well, you say all this bad stuff about Barack Obama, but you don't say anything about Ted Cruz. I said, excuse me, have you been listening? I said, as soon as he says he's going to run, I'll be down there fast and you can say Jack Daniels will file a lawsuit against him.
Sure, right.
And that's because he's had dual citizenship. You can't be president. But well, as it's taken off good, we're going off to different areas. I've got some professional help. Celine Knight and Gil around here in California against Judge Brown. She got over 400,000 votes. And I got some other people working on my campaign now, so we actually have people that know what they're doing. Not being a professional politician and not wanting to ever be one, you have to do certain things in this country in order to even get noticed. And if you don't get noticed and you don't get name recognition, you can't get donations. And sorry, you cannot run in this country if you don't get money. They've got millions already ahead of you. Yeah. And this is what you're going to get. You're going to get a menu that you get to select from, because that's what our political system is.
It's like a menu in a restaurant, right?
Yeah, parties will put the menu up there, and you get to select from the menu. But is it what you want to eat? No, you don't want, raw tuna. You want steak. Oh, but I'm sorry, all we got is raw tuna. Well, okay, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get raw tuna, and that's what you're going to get stuck with. So, you want steak? Well, then you better get out there and make sure steak gets on the menu.
Exactly.
And that's the only way we're going to get, past the problems that we've got in this country is get somebody in there that understands what it means to be an American.
And you know
not an elitist, not some person that's got an agenda like Barack Obama does, where he's been trained, brought up by socialists and anarchists and people like that. We all know who they are, but we still really don't even know what school he went to because we haven't seen any records or anything. And contrary to popular opinion,
there were no records. It's crazy talk. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, millions of dollars spent scrubbing his record. It's unbelievable. Oh, nothing to see here. Well, what about the millions of dollars you spent scrubbing? Oh, nothing to see there. Nothing.
Yeah, never mind about that man standing behind us, the green.
Hey, no attention to that man behind the curtain.
Yeah. Forget about that guy, but we know that. But look, there's only one way you're going to change that. And the only way you're going to change that is to go out there and elect somebody from the office. Just grab somebody off the street. Believe me, they can't do a worse job.
Sure,
no doubt in my mind they would probably do a better job because if you followed the Constitution, if you did that, then this country would run itself. I mean, I'm talking about it.
And that was the whole thing. When I was in that constitutional class the other day, as much as I've read the Constitution and I've had interviews with other people about the Constitution on my show, the way this one presenter presented it quite literally. This is why I just love going to these things and being in this show and meeting all the people like yourself and the guy I met the other day doing the class. I mean, a light went off in my head. It's like, wait a minute. Here I am thinking that, okay, the Constitution, it's supposed to be written, yes, it's supposed to tell the government what it's not allowed to do, but everything else that I was reading, it's like, well, okay, governments are instituted by men. I'm thinking to myself, well, it's the government's responsibility to keep these rights secure, and then I realized the way he was presented, it's like, no, it's your job. The way the preamble of the Constitution is written, it says right off the bat, we the people. That's what it is. It's the people's job. It's our job. And then, people like me get on the radio and you go run for president, and then everyone's on your case. It's like, oh, what you... And it's like, don't you understand? We are the people. It is our job. It is our responsibility. John, I want to thank you so much, man. Thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Oh, I love having you on, and you're definitely coming back all the time. I told you this before anyway in the first interview, and amazing. John, give your website, give your information, telephone number, anything else. We're going to wrap it up here, buddy.
Yeah, sure. The easiest way, to check me out is to get on we can have a definite site. It's www. And it's my last name is Dummett. Looks like dumb because it's Dummett. You can say whatever you want as long as you got a smile on your face. But after that, Dummett or Dummett, whatever you want to do, you do 2016.com. And then you'll reach me. Or if you just type in my last name on any search engine, you're going to find me because I've been around, folks.
Yeah, that's what I do. That's what I do. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Excellent. And I'll post everything, and you've seen my hits. You know I post everything, and I resend it all the time. Again, John, you're an open guest on the show. I'll talk to Nick. In a week or two. We'll get you booked in again. I've got April already filling up, so we'll look to you coming back on in sometime later in May. And John, thank you again. Good luck. Keep up the good fight, man. God bless you, man. Thank you again.
Yeah, you too. You keep her up, too, because, hey, it's journalists. And journalists means people that get out there and say the truth objectively, that will get this out, and instead of, promoting an agenda. You keep up your good work, too, buddy. Thanks for having me on the show.
All right, buddy. All right, take care, man. I'll talk to you again.
Later.
See you. That was awesome. That was freaking awesome. I love talking to that guy. I absolutely love talking to that guy. It's absolutely unbelievable. And he's right. You know, in Tom Clancy's novel, Executive Orders, if you've ever read any Tom Clancy, the character Jack Ryan, and if you follow the whole character of Jack Ryan with Tom Clancy, one of the things at the end of the book of Executive Orders, Jack Ryan becomes president. And you got to read the book to understand what I'm talking about, but let's see if I can just explain. What Jack Ryan does is, once he assumes the presidency, because Congress is gone because of a terrorist attack, that kind of thing, we have to have elections. But he does something. He says something. And he says, I don't want lawyers. I don't want lobbyists. I don't want politicians. I don't want mayors, governors. I don't want these people running. He almost has to sign an executive order, because it's always been that way. I want plumbers. I want an electrician. I want a single mother. I want a poor person. I actually want a homeless person. I want average Americans who are out there, who have to deal with the day-to-day things all of the time, to run for Congress and to run for Senate. Let's fill the House and the Senate with just everyday average Americans. In fact, that is what our founders intended, is that you do your time, you work, and towards the end of your life, then you might serve. Of course, people back then didn't live as long, but the whole point was, you know, it's kind of like the icing on the cake. It's kind of like the cap on your hat. Is like, you know, he ran a business. Okay, maybe he failed, or he raised a family, or he worked this job, or he was in this industry, and then at the end of his life, he served a term in Congress, or 2 terms in Congress, or he served a term or a couple of terms in the Senate, and then that was it. He retired, and that was it. It's no longer like that. Everything's elitist, oligarchist, career politicians, and this is why I love having John. And I apologize again, John. I cannot endorse a campaign. I really can't. I have to remain neutral on all of that. I wish I could. I really wish I could, because in all the years that I've been doing this meat and potato show, I've talked to so many people. I've done so much research. There are so many people that I would love to have joined with and held out, but I can't. All I can do is just give them this forum, this voice. And so I want to thank you for watching. And John, good luck. And we look forward to your next interview. God bless.